Okay. Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Beki'im Bahalacha 6. Yeah, this is Siman Kuf Samech Gimel. Okay, Siman Kuf Samech Gimel, which is 163. We are right now day 78, which is page 190. Okay, everybody has it, page 190. Halacha Bet. Okay, we're talking about what happens if you're traveling and you don't have water. So this is a very famous case. Yeah, you're traveling, you don't have water. The truth is, it might be a little bit difficult nowadays to find because usually you will have water somewhere, whether it's going to be a public washroom or somewhere. But it could happen. You understand? Like there does exist the concept. Yeah. So let's start. Okay. If someone is traveling, yeah, there's halakha number 2, page 190, right, and has no water with him when he wishes to eat. He may wrap his hands in a cloth and eat the bread without performing netilat yadayim on 2 conditions. Number 1 is that according to his estimate, if he would continue traveling another 4 mil, which is 2.4 miles, okay, forward, he would still not find water. And the other is that if he would backtrack 1 mil, which is 0.6 of a mile, okay, so then he would not find water. Meaning, to go forward means that he's still going in the direction of his traveling. To go backwards is that he's going backwards of the direction from his traveling. So if he makes a calculation and he says, listen, I'm in the middle of nowhere, right? All of a sudden now is where I'm going to eat for whatever reason, right? And all of a sudden he says, 1 second, there's no water, there's nothing here. So he's parked on the side of a highway or whatever it is exactly. I wouldn't advise that, but okay, whatever. He's on the side. He's somewhere where he's got no water, right? So therefore, he's going to say in his mind, 1 second, 1 second. I'm traveling north. So if I'm going this way, within the next 2.4 miles, I come and I check on the GPS or the Waze, whatever it is, Google Maps. I don't know. There's nothing here. Okay, fine. Let me go backwards. No, also, it's more than 0.6 miles, right? But remember, when we're talking about here, we're talking about how much do you have. It's always a mil. You remember I told you the mil, the easiest way to translate mil is a mile, but it's not actually correct. The mil is actually a kilometer, because according to the Grach Nai, it's 960 meters, which is just under 1 kilometer, or 1 kilometer. And according to the Chazonich, it's 1,050 meters. So it's just above a kilometer, like or below. So basically, the mil is really meant more like a kilometer than more than a mile, even though it sounds the same, like mil a mile. But that's just the way it is. So כמחמתן לטבריה, כל הכבוד. כמחמתן לטבריה. כמחמתן לטבריה. כל הכבוד, doctor. Right, דף ב' עמוד ב'. Yeah, מסכת מגילה. כל הכבוד. So he comes and he says, right, so if I go forward, you're going to be talking about 4 mil. Backwards is going to be 1 mil. Okay? So, very important to know. Okay? If this person figured out that he would find water if he would continue traveling forward up to 4 mil, or backtrack up to 1 mil, he cannot eat bread until he actually goes to get to the water to do netilat yadayim. In such a situation, he has no right to wrap his hands and eat the bread without netilat yadayim. Why? Because you're able to get water. So the water does not mean that you have to have the water now. It has to be the opportunity to get water. So if I've got the opportunity to get water, so you're going to say, okay, fine. You know what? I saw on the billboard, it was written that the next how do you call this? The next station or the next exit is in what's it called? I don't know how. The next pit stop, whatever you want to call it. It's in I don't know how many miles. So you already know it's too far. Yeah, fine. Let's see for 148 when water is available but no receptacle. Right? What about that halacha? Meaning, for example, let's say you're going to stop at one of these rest areas. No, how do they call them? Rest areas, rest area, recreation area, whatever you want to call them exactly. For example, you're going to the turnpike, so you don't have exits every single. They come and they tell you the next the next exit or the next stop is I don't know how many 16 miles or whatever it is miles. You understand? So therefore, it's going to be a long period of time. So what do you do? So now, let's say I'm going to get there. But even when you go to these areas, there's no receptacle, meaning you're not going to find the keli for netilat yadayim. You'll find water maybe in a washroom, right? But you're not going to find anything else. So he says, our sages compare the mitzvah netilat yadayim to that of purifying the waters containing the ashes of paraduma. Just as the purification process demands that the water be in a receptacle, so to the mitzvah netilat yadayim has to be in a receptacle, as explained in Siman 159. So he says, because of this, in the response to Tzitz Eliezer, that if a traveler wishes to eat bread in his water, right, and has water, but he has no receptacle to perform the mitzvah, the rules are identical to someone who has no water with him. So if he could get a hold of a receptacle by traveling forward up to 4 mil or backtracking, they may not eat bread by wrapping his hands in a cloth. So here, it's the receptacle is the important part. Because if he's not going to find the receptacle anyway, it's a problem. Okay? Fine. Next, what about the meal? What is a meal? So halacha number 3 says, actually, the previous halacha does not depend on a measure of distance, but rather on the time it would take to reach the water. Meaning, because if I'm going to go by distance, right, nowadays, it's a completely different world. Once upon a time, right, for example, I'll give you an example. They said that once upon a time, a person would travel 40 mil, right, in the entire day. Yeah, 40 mil the entire day. Okay, so now, if you're going to take a calculation, that's a lot of traveling. But nowadays, 40 mil, if you're going to tell me it's 40 kilometers, how much is that in miles? That's divided by 1.2, no? 1.2? 1.5.
26.3.
So it's 26.3 miles.
For 42 kilometers.
Ah, okay, fine. So if you're going to say that, so how much bemet is that then? That's nothing. 26 miles. How long does it take you to drive 26 miles? Well, it depends. If you're driving in a school zone, right? It's
no, but the idea is driving.
World record just
bemet. Okay, so there you go.
59.30 seconds. 150. He ran 25 kilometers per hour.
Wow. Okay.
He just break
the record. Okay, there you have it. Is that which means okay? So it's true. When the Gemara said that, it was not talking about a marathon. That's the truth, right? The Gemara was not talking about a marathon. The Gemara was talking about a regular person that comes and he just walks. Is that which is walking, not even running, just walking, right? Just walking. So now again, nowadays though, if you're in a car and you go on a highway, right, you could do 26 miles, and you understand, it doesn't take you a day. You understand? It takes you whatever it is. You understand? Whatever it is. If it's which one? Oh, okay, fine. No, even if you're going at the speed of the thing, you understand? I heard that they wanted to pick up the speed of the highways. No, you didn't hear that? No? They just passed it. That's what I heard. Yeah, they want to pick it up. No, we're not talking about on the regular road. In the highways. In the highways, instead of 70, no, I think it was going to become 80 or something like that. Or instead of 60 it was going to be 70. I don't remember what it was. It was one of them that there was
60
they were gonna
70, no?
Yeah, they were gonna pick it up. Meaning they were gonna, make it higher. You understand? So okay, you understand? Meaning that it does exist such a thing. Fine. Yeah. Listen, I always say it. I remember in Spain and all these places, it was like it was always a dream to drive because you're driving. There was 120 kilometers an hour, right? For example, Canada, the maximum is 100. So if you're going 130, so that's even better then. So that's even better.
And in Germany, there's some motion. There's
Unlimited.
Yeah.
400 kilometers an hour.
Bemet?
Sure.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Where?
You just need control of the car. Forget about how you're going.
Well, you need a car for that.
Okay. Huh?
You need a car for that.
No, for sure. You need a good car and you need the control. And it has to be straight because if there's any turns,
not everybody has.
Yeah. Fine. So let's go. So you said it like this. The previous halacha is not talking about the measure of distance, but rather on the time. So our sages estimated that it takes a person 18 minutes to walk a mil. Therefore, someone traveling in a vehicle who wishes to eat bread may not wrap his hands without them unless it's going to take him 72 minutes to reach water if he continued forward, and it would take him more than 18 minutes backwards. So therefore, again, it's not actually in kilometers. It's actually minutes. So for example, you know what it is? 1 hour and 12 minutes of driving. So if he's going to go forward an hour and 12 minutes, if you're going to tell me it's going to be 4 mil, so it's nothing. 4 kilometers is nothing. But if you're going to tell me now it's 72 minutes of traveling, you're going to tell me within 72 minutes you're not going to get somewhere? Think about it. From here to 72 minutes, you're already in Boca. You understand? So that means meaning that to start saying I don't have water is very difficult. You understand? Like it's if you're going in time instead of distance, it's going to be a different world. Look at the 149. This is the ruling of the Mishnah Berurah and the Kafachim Sofer. The Chanim pointed out that in Siman 92, the Mishnah Berurah ruled that 4 mil is a measure of distance, not of time. So then, how does it work then? It's a stira, like what's going on? There he told you it's a measure of distance. Here he's telling you it's time. So Shevet Levi suggests reconciling this contradiction, explaining that regarding Netilat Yadayim, when the option is eating bread without having performed the mitzvah, our sages do not permit that option unless the water is really unavailable. Each bite of bread, right, would be an act of ignoring the mitzvah of Netilat Yadayim, and this can be permitted only in more dire circumstances. Regarding the mitzvah of praying together with a minyan, he says that they said that this is why you have to be stringent. Someone who prays alone is not going to be guilty, even if it's going to be 4 kilometers. You understand, like how much is he actually going? Chaim Kanievsky though reconciled it differently. He said that in the case of Siman 92, it's a person riding a donkey. So since it's difficult and uncomfortable mode of traveling, they were lenient that he doesn't have to travel more than 4 miles and not in 72 minutes. The case in Siman 163, we're traveling in a wagon or an automobile. So for there, it's going to be much more comfortable. So therefore, there you got the 72 minutes. The Chabra suggests yet another way to reconcile these halachot. See more about this in Piskei Teshuvot 407. So again, there's many different, there's machlokot. How do you actually answer up the Mishnah Berurah? Is it distance or is it time? If you're going to tell me distance, it's much easier. Because if I'm going to tell you you don't have water for 4 kilometers, right? That's like what, 3 or whatever, 2.5 miles. It's nothing. You understand? Like, you could find. So, you could find that easily. But if you're going to tell me now 72 minutes, that's a lot of miles. You understand? That's a lot. That's a big distance. You understand? So, and I wasn't even talking about the highway. I'm talking about even the driving regular. You understand? Like, so. So again, in halachot of going to tefillah b'tzibur, it was distance over there, even though it all depends. If you're talking about a donkey, according to that shita. If you're talking about a automobile, then again you've got the same thing. Then it's 72 minutes. So that means basically, if you got a minyan within your 72 minutes, you're gonna have to travel. So you're not only going to go from the island to here. You're gonna go to the island to I don't know where. You understand? You're gonna have to go to Hollywood. You're gonna have to go to.
I'm thinking of a practical example is when you're skiing and you have a sandwich, because that was the case for me in January. You can ski more than 4 kilometers. It's very possible.
Yeah, the snow. Yeah, you have the snow.
You have the snow.
Okay, but we spoke about the snow. Okay, we spoke about the snow. Okay, yeah, continue.
What, you can use the snow?
No, we spoke about that. If only. No, but we said that was only if
The snow.
you couldn't do tevilah in the snow. If I remember correctly, the question is, can you use it as netilat yadayim?
Yes.
But for sure not tevilat yadayim. That for sure I remember the no. But I think when netilat yadayim we spoke about, can you use snow? I mean, you would pick up a cup of snow and pour the snow over your hands or something like that. But, because you don't have a keli as well.
Next question. You're
Oh, you see, that's a good because then again, he doesn't have the keli. And not having the keli is.
And even if you're skiing, because I had the case, and there was a bathroom, but number one, it didn't look clean. A lot of people, I didn't want to go. I didn't have a keli anyways, so I kept my gloves and I ate.
Okay, so let's see the next halacha. What happens if you're going to wrap both hands?
That are for traveling.
Yeah, there's like a, how do you call it? Collapsible. Retractable. Retractable, I think that's something.
Yes.
Yeah. Wrap both hands. Yeah. You're just saying it's easier gloves. Look at this. In order to eat bread without performing netilat yadayim, it is necessary to wrap both hands in a cloth, even if the person plans to eat only with one hand. If someone would wrap only one hand, he might accidentally touch the bread with his other hand. It is no different than someone who has water and decides that he will only eat with one hand. He still has to do netilat yadayim on both hands. So according to the poskim rule that a person must pour water on netilat yadayim onto his knuckles only, so then it's only obligated to cover the fingers up to the knuckles, but one may leave the palms bare. But according to those rules, you have to do it until the wrists, so you have to also cover that. Again, we already said that we always recommended doing until the wrist, even though mikara din you could do until the knuckles. Okay, what about gloves? If someone wears gloves, it's the same as wrapping the hands. Okay, so again, as long as you cannot get the water or not have the keli, right? So then obviously, you do have what to rely on because that's what you did. You wear the gloves. Now,
sorry, but
yeah.
What is important is to cover the hands.
The last halacha number 6. According to some poskim, eating with a fork or spoon is considered the same as wrapping the hands with a cloth. In practice, however, you should not eat bread while performing the netilat without performing the netilat unless you actually wrap the hands. If there's no water or cloth available, then you could use the spoon and a fork. You understand? Very interesting. You're using a spoon and a fork. That sounds French. You're going to cut your bread and you're going to cut the bread with a knife and fork and then eat it with take the fork and Huh? Russian? Yeah, the Russians do that. Oh, okay. Oh, the fork. Psst, there you go. Okay. Fine. The last one just says, according to the Rama, eating with a spoon, 150, is just as good as wrapping the hands in the cloth. The Chorim challenges ruling since the wrapping of the hands ensures that the person will not touch the bread with his bare fingers, but using a spoon does not ensure at all. So the Rabbi, he offered another explanation, right? He says he admitted that it's lame. Okay, fine. Kaf HaChaim also said of the levush. The Kaf HaChaim also said that when someone eats the bread using a spoon, he's not protected from the other hands at all. So again, there's a whole question about it. Again, obviously, b'diavad, you could be lenient, but not lechatchila. Okay, we continue.